Welcome to Rockport, Massachusetts. Population around 7,000. And this small coastal town north of Boston has begun to set in motion an absolute revolution in typical Massachusetts fashion regarding behavioral threat assessment and its application into daily life. This is the story of this little town's big initiative and how they serve as an example for cities and towns much bigger than they are to be more interconnected, more proactive, and more safe by putting prevention at the forefront of how services and resources are deployed. It all started with this problem of feeling stuck. Work was certainly being done, but they began to question its efficacy and impact. The services and resources were there, but they weren't coordinating. Something was off, especially when it came to safety. The town council, concerned about the threat of violence in schools, asked the local police chief to take a course in behavioral threat assessment, and that upon completion, he would then train the teachers in the town on behavioral threat assessment, on what to look out for, what kind of behavioral indicators, etc. It was at this behavioral threat assessment training where the police chief recognized something and came back with a revolutionary proposal. Instead of gambling that the right people with the right resources would respond at the right time, along with putting the responsibility of coordinating this behavioral threat assessment team in the schools, they would move it out of the schools and spread the responsibility across the entire town, across all sectors, all services, incorporating all of the town's resources. No longer would schools have the responsibility of having to be the nucleus of coordination for threat assessment. Instead, they would sit at the table and be a component of a larger threat assessment methodology. All of the town's entities would now be able to share their concerns about certain individual, whether it be certain risk factors or behavioral indicators that might indicate that somebody was headed down the pathway of violence. And by doing so, a more proactive, multidisciplinary coordinated response could be achieved. Now, social workers and volunteer organizations were involved, firefighters and EMS, school bus drivers, departments of rec, even sanitation and mail carriers are now involved. A true whole-of-community approach to prevention, if there ever was one. One of the pitfalls that has emerged over the years is that the data on who and where these types of threats are coming from has become increasingly skewed, with extremely high numbers of threats coming from the 18 and under demographic. Now, that makes sense if you put the behavioral threat assessment teams in schools where that demographic is 18 and under, but it is not an accurate reflection of the totality of where and who these threats are coming from. That's why the town of Rockport's initiative is such an outlier and so revolutionary. Not only is their police chief behavioral threat assessment certified, but so is their town manager. They offer services throughout the calendar year and encourage service administrators to at least be aware of behavioral threat assessment. Has it been the perfect solution to all the town's problems? No. Obviously, there's still some adjustments and refinements that can be made, but they are way ahead of the game. Rockport may have been a small, sleepy coastal town, but they woke up to a big idea, put that in motion, and have benefited greatly by doing so. If they were able to do it, other large cities and towns can do it as well. And if you are interested in establishing something like the town of Rockport for your city or town, go to tvtpsolutions.com and contact us.